Hey guys, MD Prepper here, doing a tabletop review of the Jimenez JA9 9mm. Now, as you know, these firearms are Saturday night specials. Jimenez Arms is just the latest permutation, or mutation if you prefer, of the Ring of Fire handguns. Brico, Jennings, Raven, etc. They're now made in Las Vegas, Nevada, 100% made in the USA, which is quite nice. Very low price, $169. Couldn't pass it up, just play around with it. See how low can you go with a handgun. So far, let me go ahead and say I've been very pleasantly surprised with this overall. It has some faults, we'll talk about that, but not terrible for $169 at all. Definitely not the junk gun that I was expecting, and I did have my hesitations initially. So, anyway, $169, what does that get you? The gun, 2 magazines, 2 12-round mags. If you live in a state that does not allow 12-rounders, you get 2 10s. Let's talk about the magazines here for a second. Not the prettiest overall, and also bend and weld here on the back side. Not so easy to load the first round in because it's so steep. It's not as easy to load the first round and just thumbing it in like a Glock or something like that. So it takes a little bit of work just to push it down with one hand and then push the round in. But whatever, no major problems there. I don't say complaint, but something I've noticed with the magazine. You've got the holes here, which I would presume are for seeing rounds. The bottom two aren't for seeing loaded ammo. I don't know why those two holes are there. This is the lowest hole that you're going to see for the 12 rounds, so whatever. But either way, you get 2 magazines, $169 for the gun. Can't complain. Trigger lock on this. I don't really like trigger locks. I despise them, honestly. But let me go ahead and say I like this trigger lock. This is probably the best trigger lock I've ever seen, if I had to pick a trigger lock. Comes with 2 of these little keys here. Little 5-prong with a little center stud there. And all you got to do is you put it in there, you twist it, and it just pops right off. This pops off very easily, very lightly, very quick and easy overall. So I can't complain there. Alright, on to the actual gun. Like I said, $169 for this right here. Comes in several formats and styles and colors. The silver frame and the black slide is what I got because that's what they had for new in box without any scrapes on it. And honestly, I'm glad I got this so I can compare how well the silver color holds up to the black, just for wear and tear and general use. So I'll be making videos in the future because I'm going to be roughing this thing up and using it. It comes in various other styles: silver slide and frame, black slide and frame, silver slide, black frame, and apparently a chrome version. I kind of wish they'd had the chrome version because I like the look of the ghetto fabulousness of the chrome version of my JA22, but whatever, this was not a bad purchase. Grips are basic plastic, nothing to speak of there. Overall, no problems. Not a great asset, but not a great hindrance either. Plastic trigger did have a little bit of overmolding here on the bit of the inside of the trigger there that hurt your finger a little bit. Well, it took me about 5 seconds to fix that with the end of my fingernail, scraping it back and forth, and now it's just fine and smooth. So, nothing major there. Let's talk about finer points of this firearm. The bonuses, if there are some, and there are. The front sight is a nice bright orange little plastic piece there, non-adjustable. They say it's red in the handbook, but I guess maybe they changed that to orange at some point. The rear sights are fully adjustable for windage and elevation right there, if you can see that. That is a wonderful, wonderful addition for a $169 handgun. The rear on this is more of a Glock style sight, if you see that right there. So sight picture on this is excellent for such a low price handgun. Now for you safety sallies out there, let me go ahead and show you this has been safety checked beforehand. Nothing in the mag and nothing in the gun, so I'm not just waving this thing around like a madman. It does have a loaded chamber indicator up here up top. I don't have any snap caps, I'm not going to show you, but it's kind of a dark orange or dark red color. It pops up when there's a round in there. It's very visible, very obvious that you can see it, but you can't see it now because there's not one in there. But nice addition, can't really complain. It does have a magazine disconnect safety, which I personally do not like. I just don't. But it's there if you like it. I don't know if you can break this thing down and take it out and disconnect the magazine safety like you can on a high point. I just haven't broken it down that much, but whatever. It does have a loaded chamber indicator here on the back. Bright orange, very easy to see. You know, nice little option there overall. There it is fired. Once you cock it, there you go, orange again. The safety on this, Flip it around here right there. Up for safe, down for fire. It's actually quite stiff. Stiffness is about like a 1911, I'd say. Shorter distance overall. Works fairly well, unlike the JA22 that I just reviewed. This I would carry if I had to, concealed carry or in the hip, something like that. I would not worry about accidentally flipping this thing off. So you're okay there. Now, when the safety is engaged, you cannot rack the slide. That locks the slide in place. So that's good or bad, whatever. The safety on this thing, right here, standard location for a pistol. But with my standard size hands, I cannot easily reach this. It's fairly flush. There's not a lot of stick up there, which is good, I guess. You're not going to accidentally release your mag. But for me to hit this, I have to rotate my hand to the gun and pop it out. So, other comments, when the slide is like it is right now, the magazine is fairly drop free. Okay, quite easy to drop it out, but you're not going to be using it that way much. You're going to be using it slide locked open on the last round fired like it does. When you hit the magazine release, it does slide out, but it's not as drop free. It catches, I guess, the internals here of the slide release and safety, whatever. It just does not pop free quite as easily. Sometimes it catches like it does right there. You have to either hit it again or you have to reach up and pull the thing out with your hand. But 12 rounds, not terrible overall. Negatives on this firearm across the board. Will only fire full metal jacket rounds that are the only thing recommended, and it's not plus P rated. They recommend 115 grain full metal jacket rounds to feed and function effectively. I've not tried to fire hollow points in it, but just like the high point, I don't think this is going to do the job for those. You say, well, why would I only want to fire full metal jacket rounds? Those things suck. No, they don't. No, hollow points are better, but you look at one-shot shot percentages with hollow points versus full metal jackets. Yeah, hollow points rule. I've got 12 rounds in this thing plus 1 in the pipe. I'm not just going to shoot you once. I'm going to shoot you 12 or 13 times, hopefully hitting you every time. 5 rounds in the chest of full metal jacket's going to get the job done. So for low-cost shooting and self-defense, it's not terrible overall. It's really not. Another thing I would strongly recommend is when you go to reload this thing, you pop another mag in, ready to go. Don't hit the slide release. You should never hit the slide release. That's a terrible habit to get into if you look at Clint Smith and the rest of them, Thunder Ranch, etc. Don't ever go for the slide release. Always rack the gun like a man, grab the slide, and pull it back like you're trying to pull it out of the gun. That will reload every handgun that's semi-auto every single time without worry. You can always just rack the slide again if things don't work out, and I would strongly recommend that with this gun. Playing around, I did try to drop the slide with a full magazine, and I did have a few failures to chamber the round. That's a problem. Every time that I played around and actually racked it like a real man in a minute, never had any trouble at all. So far, I now have 150 rounds through this gun. No failures to fire, no failures to eject, no stovepipes, no nothing. Absolute perfect function. 150 rounds, no cleaning, no nothing. I cleaned it and lubed it up the first time before I took it out, and after that we're good to go. No problems whatsoever. Negatives on this gun. The one negative about this gun, other than just being able to fire full metal jacket rounds, is this thing hurts. This is probably the most uncomfortable handgun I have to say I've fired recently. And I fire 10mm and compact frames. I fire 45s. I fire just about everything. I'm not a recoil sensitive guy, and I wouldn't say I'm recoil sensitive on this one. But it just hurts. The big wide frame here on the back side, a little big, a little bulky, but polymer guns do tend to absorb some of the recoil. The bigger slide of the high point seems to take up some of that recoil. This thing hurts. You're going to feel it every time you pull that trigger in the webbing of your hand. So I don't want to fire more than about 50 rounds through this thing before I'm done with it, for a while anyway. It stings a bit. It just does. It's not necessarily a bad thing if I'm firing in a defensive situation. I'm not going to care. I'm not going to feel it. It won't matter. One other minor concern about this thing, the takedown release right here to take the gun down, which I'm not going to do in this video, but it's right there if you see it. One thing I ran into, my standard style of shooting, when I grab a handgun, I grab it, I grip up on it as tight as I can. After firing 2 or 3 magazines out of this thing, I noticed that I had a little bit of blood on my hand. I didn't know where that came from. I really didn't feel the pain, but just noticed it. Oh, that's odd. Kept shooting and finally realized what the problem was. Since I grip up so high on the gun, which I think is the way to do it, the recoil would force this into my thumb back here. Now it's healed up fairly well from a week ago, but maybe you can see it. Maybe you can't right there. Little scratch. Nothing major, but I did have to modify my grip a little bit on this gun. If I grip it up here like I tend to, it hurt. If I grip it down just a little bit lower with my thumb basically where the slide release is going to be, the magazine release rather, it did not bite at all. So no problems there, but that was a little unpleasant surprise. So a little bit of hit against it. Like I said, I'm not going to break this thing down, but it's not too hard to do so overall. It's quite easy. I fired 150 rounds to this thing total. I got my magazine. Both of them I fired. No problems with either. Let me show you the target of the last 50 rounds. These were just basic blazer brass, I believe, which is not my favorite for accuracy. But overall, I'm quite pleased. This was from about 5 yards away. There you go, maybe 4.5. No problems whatsoever. The first 100 rounds I put through this were all high and to the right. I was a little bit worried about the accuracy and having adjust the sights, but seems to work out fairly well overall. Mainly adjusted a little bit. So no major issues there. One thing that concerned me initially was the apparent poor rifling on this barrel. It's very shallow, does not look particularly great overall. Wow, this almost looks like a smooth bore. But judging by the target, it fires just fine. Now I'm not sure how well that's going to hold up in the long run, honestly. But again, this is not going to be a high-use firearm probably. This is going to be just basically breaking it in, shooting it occasionally, keeping it cleaned up in case you need it. This would be an excellent little firearm if you need to put something in a cache or storage somewhere. You know, keep it in your RV, keep it in your bug out location or cabin in the woods, wherever. Just keep it stashed away somewhere just in case of an emergency. Not a terrible choice overall. $169. I cannot complain with the two mags overall. I was pleasantly surprised. Like I said, it does hurt to fire, but you know, it's not terrible. Let me go ahead and run down the stats before I end this video, just so I say I did so. The height on this is 4.75 inches. The thickness is 1.25 inches. The weight is a whopping 30 ounces, which is, I believe, 1 ounce more than the High Point 9. So this is not a good carry gun due to the weight. It's too big for pocket carry, and it's going to weigh too much for general concealed carry, in my opinion. But for console of the car, glove box, nightstand, RV, or bug out location, it's going to be fine. The length overall is 6.625. The barrel is 3.75 inches. And it has a fixed barrel, just like the rest of them, which provides accuracy, but again, you feel that recoil, so you pay for it. You get the accuracy even with the poor rifling of the barrel, but man, does it sting a bit. I could fire 100 rounds if I had to, but I just prefer not to. Anyway, not a bad choice, guys. I will keep doing reviews of this in the near future, and I will almost certainly make a comparison video between this and the comparable High Point, as their price points are similar. So anyway, guys, hope you found this useful. Send me any questions you have. I'll keep shooting this thing, let you know how it does. Like I said, so far 150 rounds, no failures to fire, and darn good accuracy. What more could I ask for so far for such a cheap gun? Anyway, guys, MD Prepper out.